Hey, Andy, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, when you connected with me, there was a couple things that you mentioned that you really work with that I was like, man, my listeners really need to hear a little bit more about that. Our listeners are called big boxers, not like the underwear, but people that are wanting to get into big box, and their biggest reason that they listen is for a better understanding of how to sell their products and get their products on the shelf of retailers and get the word out, right? I mean, right now, I think just content, it's just a sea of noise out there. And so, how do you quiet the noise and make your product stand out? So at some point, we'll get into those things. But before we do, let's introduce the group to you and what you do and how you got there, and just give us the 1 minute breakdown.
Sure. Well, to give you a little bit of a background with me, I came over to the United States in 1999, met a girl on my way to go to England, and she's, now we're been married for 21 years and, have a little boy.
Leave it to a girl to change the course, right?
Yeah. I was
just change
I was
things up.
here for 6 months and on my way to the United Kingdom, and I was met a gymnastics coach, and she convinced me that I should be staying in the United States, and I convinced myself as well. So we all started there. My degree, funnily enough, was in sports science, so I was in more team management and so forth. That was my background through college.
Right.
But I'd always been in sales and marketing. Like that had always been kind of my job. But when I in the United States, I realized that rugby, which was what I kind of specialized in, wasn't really going to pay much. Rugby wasn't really like a big sport here, and decided I needed to get into something real, and really started to work in in sales and marketing. My first job in the United States was actually traveling around the country opening CarMax stores, CarMax auto superstores back in the day.
Yeah.
I opened about 4 CarMax stores across the country as a sales manager. Got my teeth cut there, understanding the American market and how people operate and hiring and firing and all of that good stuff. And in 2004, we branched out, started, and that was really the beginning of my entrepreneurial foray, which basically turned me into a not a very good employee, because I could not be hired by anybody ever again. But it really spurred on this journey that we've gone on to grow businesses, build businesses, and went through a publishing period where I was a publisher for a magazine that did media. I was a sales director for a television station for few years. And then in 2015, my business partner and I had been working on another project with the publishing company that I ran for about 8 years. And we decided to sell the publishing company. It was a tourism-based publishing company. We sold the publishing company and started up Creatively Disruptive, mainly because we wanted to help any business. Tourism is kind of specific to like activities and restaurants and stuff, right? And very localized. So we wanted to help any business across the world that needed the help, and we felt like we had some stuff to give. So we started up there. We've had a major focus. We've got 3 niches that we kind of focus on. That's small business. So the small business operator, my heart is with the small business operator a little bit. When I say small business, 100 employees or less kind of thing. I really enjoy, because it's a tangible, seeing the difference that happens in their life that you get with working with small businesses, that I find is a big payoff personally. I really enjoy that. We work with activity center type, like large gyms, large like gymnastics, kids activity centers, all those kind of things, basically activity centers, local driven. And then e-commerce, big time on e-commerce. We've had some major success managing millions of dollars of a year in ad spend on e-commerce, and and driving e-commerce, and really to a large degree, kind of, I mean, almost everybody is a, people go, oh, you work with small business, that must mean that you work with a ma and pa with 2 employees. No, small business is, in the real sense is, what, 150, 100 people or less. And 99.9% of businesses are small businesses. I mean, most businesses aren't much larger than that, right? So even if we're doing large numbers, and some of our e-com are doing very large numbers, they still only have 45 people employed with them. So they might not think of themselves as a small business, but they really are, because it's based usually on employees. So yeah, it's a good ride. It's kind of exciting. I feel like we started Creatively Disruptive right at the start of where online marketing was getting very serious, where it was starting to be seen as this is actually something to happen. 5 years feels like, well, I guess it's 6 years now, right? It's 2021. We started in 2015. It feels like an age ago, if I'm honest. That like what we were doing in 2015 is nothing like what we're doing today. And like 5 years before that, some platforms weren't even in existence. 5 years before that, Facebook wasn't even in existence, and everyone was using Yahoo to search for stuff. So, things change so quickly. And I do feel right now, it's the golden age. We're hitting in the beginning of maybe a long extended period that could be 20 years or 30 years, golden age of online marketing. And it's kind of exciting. And things are happening so quickly. There's opportunities that have never happened before. If you have a product that is good, you can sell it online and sell it in the millions. I mean, you don't have to wait for Bed Bath & Beyond to put it on shelf number 45 at the back of the store. You can actually get your product up front and center and right in front of the person that's most likely to purchase it, and start selling millions of it to them if you do it right online and have control over your own destiny. And I think some manufacturers tend to give their destiny to others and hope that it all works out, because they think, oh, if I get my product into Best Buy or Bed Bath & Beyond or whatever big box retailer that there is out there, they'll make me rich. Well, sometimes they might put you out of business too. Like you hear all the time.
Be careful. Yeah, it's my bread and butter. So,
right.
Big box retail. I think what I think is important is a healthy diversification. There's people that they start a business and they put all their products on Amazon and they think that they have a company, but they don't. They have a product, and it's on Amazon, and they lower the price to keep the buy box in check. And then next thing you know, their product starts to decline. And here's how it works generally for me, because I work with a lot of Amazon sellers that want to get into retail, and their products are going up, it's going up, and then it tables off, and so they start to lower the price, and then it starts to decline, and that's when they call me. And they don't call me because they have a strategy. They're calling me because they're in a panic. Hey, I got to do something different. My sales are tanking now on Amazon. And I'm like, you should have called me here when the product was on its massive rise. And that's where you diversify. It's like any stock portfolio. You can't keep all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I think people have this misnomer that Amazon cares about anything to do with the people. Amazon will turn you into a supplier, and that is it. The customers are not yours. You have no customers. The customer that you have basically is Amazon, and Amazon is in charge. So Amazon is your boss and your customer. All of the customers that you sell to are their customers, and they protect them like aggressively. And if you do poorly, you won't sell anything, right? And you might even really struggle and go out of business. If you do really well, Amazon will start producing your product themselves and put you out of business either way. Amazon is not the manufacturer or small business's friend at all. Oftentimes you end up competing against Chinese products that just throw everything up there at next to nothing. So especially if you're a US manufacturer, you're going to really struggle. So if you got to kind of like be do averagely okay. So Amazon doesn't go, wow, that's a hot product, we'll make it, right? Because Amazon will do that and has done that many, many times.
Or somebody
And
else, that's much, I have a client that had he had a modest niche business on Amazon. He was doing well, he still had his own job, but he was really having a really successful second gig. And this other company, maybe 20 times his size, just reproduced his product. And where he had his differentiator was in this wording. And that's all he really had a trademark on, was the wording that was on his product. So they just chose different words, but they made the product the exact same, changed the words, but wrote them in the exact same way. So they really skirted around any proprietary thing he had. And then they threw it up for $10 less than his. They're a $150 million company, so they can just outspend him. And so one day he was doing well. He had a really good second gig. Then his business starts 10% less, 20% less. And to your point, once you're on the radar, once you start showing up in Helium 10 and Jungle Scout searches, then people are going to come after you. And it's not even just Amazon. There's just ruthless sellers on there that all they want to do is just take your idea.
And that is to a degree. To a degree, that can happen anywhere, right? Like if people
it's
start
just not as easy. If you're on the shelf at Bed Bath
it's
and
like
Beyond,
an index, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. What's selling well here? Let's just go to Amazon and find it. Let's start producing that. But I think what people miss out on, because Amazon has total control over the customer base, is building your own following, building your own customer base.
Your list.
Right. Having your own, like people discount email is how important email is. But give you an example, we had a client that we grew from 5,000 a month revenue in online business and 10,000 a month business in store business. So they were like basically a hobby business, right? To $870,000 a month in online revenue, right? We built that in a year. Right, and this is a recent thing that we're still working on, and she went from next to no understanding about what's going on and so forth, making a really nice product, to actually probably doing $300,000 in email marketing sales alone a month, right? So $3.6 million. I don't know, if that's money that is important to anybody out there, but $3.6 million for somebody who was basically a one-person band
doing 120 grand a year. Yeah.
Yep, $300,000 a month. So 3.6 million in email marketing, and it showed me that email marketing is something that is still absolutely viable, and it's something that many businesses ignore. But how do you get the emails? How do you grow that base? You grow it through Google, you grow it through Facebook, you grow it through those you grow through those sales that those platforms generate. Facebook is not always the most profitable platform to be on. It's not like it's going to give you the biggest return on investment, right? The biggest profit margins and so forth. What Facebook does do amazingly well, probably even better, I think, than Amazon, is introduce you to new people and grow your product. So if you have a product that people purchase multiple times, so if it's a consumable or something that every few months you got to purchase, Facebook is wonderful to be on. Wonderful to be on, because you purchase that product. If it's good, I use it. Oh, I'm just going to go back and purchase it. I purchase it directly, or I purchase it through the email. I never go through Google clicks or Facebook clicks or whatever. I'm purchasing directly, and I'm growing that fan base or that following base through Facebook. And people, and any company can do it. It's we were talking earlier about the fact that Facebook is, there's lots of noise on it and so forth. There's actually less noise right now than ever before, because iOS 13 came in and basically kicked off all of the little tiny players that were like clogging the system up. So, we were very concerned as an agency about what the iOS 14, if you don't understand what it is Apple has changed their operating system to iOS 14.
Well, iOS 15 is about to come out.
Right, exactly. But iOS 14 specifically was a big privacy update. So what you had to do, and you might have noticed that if you've got an Apple phone, is all of a sudden all your apps are asking you, do we have permission to take your information, to track you, and so forth. If you like having specific ads that are specific to you that you actually enjoy, you should say yes to Facebook. If you like to get ads that have no relevance to you and are going to be a bunch of dross, say no. So I obviously have said yes, but we found that whilst we were very concerned about seeing the data and being able to track the information and be able to see what's going on, we've actually seen a very stable reporting happening. Now, our assumption is that there's sales happening that we can't track because we just don't have the same data that's coming through. So sales are actually going up for our clients. So from a Shopify or from an in-store online store standpoint, we're seeing sales go up. From a Facebook standpoint, we're seeing kind of like a continuous trend. There's not been a drop off, which was we were somewhat concerned about. Mm-hmm. And what that has told us, and what we've actually heard through the grapevine, is lots of the little guys that don't really know all the hoops that had to be jumped through, because you had to register your domains, there's a whole heap of hoops that you had to jump through with Facebook to actually stay online. And when iOS 14 actually came out, and when Facebook actually laid down the hammer of this is how it needs to work, loads of accounts were shut down. So right now, there's actually less noise than normal on Facebook. Okay. The only downside to Facebook is that the tracking is not as accurate, which, it's like, all right, how accurate is advertising on television? What's your reporting mechanism in the newspaper? What's your reporting mechanism on all those traditional media outlets that people spend millions of dollars on? Probably not as good as Facebook is right now, even with the iOS 14 update. So, but Facebook in itself, I believe, is the #1 place to launch and to get in front of people who are most likely going to enjoy your product. Because let's say you come up with a new product that no one's ever heard of, but it's amazing. How are you going to get that out there? Are you just going to go and shop it to every single big box? I think if you can get in using you guys, great, right? But then again, the big box kind of has control over your life a little bit, right? So as you said, diversity is king. You want to be in the big box. You want to have a little bit of Amazon spread. You want to be around, and you want to have control over your destiny. And having control over your own ecosystem is, I would say, it's probably more important than anything else. So you can control your destiny, right? What happens if a big box decides to go out, to go in a different direction, or goes out of business because they've got their own pressures on them? Are you going to tie your destiny and your future to them, or do you want to have some control over yourself?
Again, just like I said, it's a combination of everything, which is why we're talking today. You can't just be, Walmart can't be your only customer, because at some point Walmart's going to ask you to do something that you're either not able to do, you don't want to do, and then all of a sudden you go out of business because you can't work with them anymore. So, it's a combination of a lot of things. Now, I want to back up a minute, but before I do, a lot of what I've been hearing on Facebook is, hey, in order for you to really sell on Facebook, you got to dump a lot of money in there. 10 grand, 10 grand a day or whatever, to really get those algorithms working to find the people that are going to buy your product. Is that true? Is it not true?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No. You have to put money in it. Like, so there's those two ends of the pie, right? Or ends of the stick, right? We got those people that think you got to spend $10,000 a day, which is $120,000 a month, right? Or those people that think that I can make $1 million from spending $5 a day, which is the minimum that you can spend a day on Facebook. The reality is it's somewhere in the middle. When we bring on a new client, we do a lot of testing. And we don't care how big you are. We'll probably start off at about $100 to $200 a day. So if you spend about $100 or $200 a day, that allows us to push through enough information for us to start seeing the trends in the algorithm to start kicking in. And then, in that learning period that, when you build an ad, you'll see, on the campaign, it will say learning. And that's the algorithm trying to figure out what's going on. Now, over time, the more you spend and the more you spend, the pixel starts calculating all that data and collecting that data and then getting better and better and better. But you don't need to be spending 10,000 a day, right? It's important to spend a number, each week or every 2 weeks, but it's in the hundreds, not in the thousands, right? We get into if we're spending $10,000 a day, it's because we know exactly what's going on. We're seeing exactly what the algorithm's telling us, what we want to see, and we've started to scale. And then at that point, the scaling part is where things can get a little, hairy, is because there's so much more data coming through, there's so much more stuff happening on, and you've got to just control that as you're scaling up. But at the beginning, you can actually see if the market, if you want to test the market to see if the market actually wants your product, you can do that with a few $100s. Then it's about scaling up to $10,000 a day and holding the line. So we might end up getting like a 4 times ROAS, or return on ad spend, right? So for every dollar that you spend, you get $4 back. And we want to times that by 10,000, right? How do we do that? We start going up through that, right? And that would normally, I think currently our highest spending client per month is probably on about 100,000 a month.
And what percent of their sales is that?
They're a subscription box company, so it's based on new stuff. So I would say probably, and they have a reasonably high, because of the type of subscription box company, they have a reasonably high churn rate. But
Inflation rate, you mean?
Yeah, you're probably looking at about 20% of their revenue. 20% of their revenue is derived from, actually, no, let me step that back. 20% of the revenue is derived from that 100,000. So it's probably, if they're spending 100,000, it's probably about 10% of their revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's say we have a product line like this company that's about to go on QVC that we work with. Their product is consumable. People love it. It's the perfect Facebook product, honestly. So they can spend a couple $100 figuring out. We already know that people want it. I mean, it was on Good Morning America, and in 8 seconds they sold something like 4,500 units. But how long should any one person, even starting from scratch, expect that they're going to spend money on Facebook without getting much back? The whole figuring out period.
I mean, if you've got a product that people care about and you actually know what you're doing on Facebook.
Let's say we don't know that yet. Let's say these guys weren't where they are. Let's say they just came to me, they had this idea, they've made it into a product, and now we're going to figure out whether people want it.
So if it's a product that no one wants, it will never happen.
Let's just say we don't know.
Okay. Well, if you don't know, let's talk about 2 things. Usually we have an idea about what kind of products would work and what won't, right? We just recently spoke to a client. I spoke to a prospective client yesterday, and I was looking at it, and it's a product that I'm like looking at it going, I think this will be really good, right? Your QVC guys, when they're looking at products, they probably look at it and go, okay, we think this is going to go pretty well, right? Otherwise they probably won't even work with it.
That's right.
So because it's airtime, it's valuable time. They don't want to put it up there for 3 minutes and get no sales.
Yeah, listen, getting on board with QVC is worse than like an IRS audit. I mean,
I'm sure.
It's crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
Sorry. So I would say if we don't know and we're kind of like just trying to test the market, we'd probably spend about 6 weeks doing that at most. Maybe 2 months if there was some kind of mistake made or something, some issue came up, or there was, unfortunately with Facebook, with the way their systems work sometimes, like we had one client that was shut down because during the election, because the algorithm thought that it was a political statement where it wasn't. It was just supporting, it was donating money to women that had been human trafficked. So then they were selling jewelry, but like 20% of their revenues was getting donated to women that were like recovering from human trafficking. And Facebook, because it was the crazy, election time, made the assumption that they were a political cause and shut them down. So as long as something like that doesn't happen, maybe 2 months would take to test it. The reality is, if it's something that people like, if it's a good product, you'll start getting sales pretty quickly, right? Because what the beauty of Facebook is that it is, we have an idea, like you build a product. Let's say, a good example is a product that I purchased a couple of years back when we had our little boy. I bought this really cool baby carrier, right? And it looked like a military flak jacket, right? It was really, it looked like a, if I didn't have a baby sitting in it, it looked like, I was ready to, get shot at.
Yeah.
And for dads, obviously that's pretty cool. So obviously it's very dad focused. Obviously it's people that have got young kids. And it's an easy market to kind of like target. So if we kind of know who the target market is and we can get that product right in front of them, and we think it's a really good one, we can get sales pretty quickly. Like within the first week, you'll start seeing some products, and then it's about like figuring out how to scale it. Because obviously you don't want to be just selling ones and twosies. You want to be getting into the hundreds a day to thousands a day kind of range if you can, and just scaling into that. And what is there? There's like 2.6 million births a year in the United States. So that jacket probably has a 5 million market.
Yeah.
And then of those, how many of those are engaged ads that are on Facebook? Remember, Facebook has in the United States 166 million users out of 300. So 50% of the country are using Facebook. That's not including all the little kids, and maybe the 90-year-olds that maybe aren't that active on Facebook. And, that means a lot of those 5 million dads that are out there are probably using Facebook. So
Yeah.
if I can put that thing right in front of those people, you can get sales pretty quickly. And
do you put it in front of the dads, or do you put it in front of the new moms to buy for the dad?
Both.
I mean, women buy 80% of things
Yeah.
for the house. So
I mean, my wife would never have bought that thing. She would have bought a Baby Bjorn, but I wasn't going to wear a Baby Bjorn.
I wore a Baby Bjorn. I loved it.
I wanted to wear this cool that I only used 3
Yeah, but
times.
I didn't know I could have had a flak jacket, man. I didn't know I could have looked like I was, in Call of Duty.
We went on a trip to New Zealand, and that's the only time I used it. So I used it for like 4 weeks. We used it. I probably used it like 12 times, and it cost $300. So, Facebook has that power to get, people like myself who's all excited about this new little baby that we have, and, wanting to have this cool flak jacket. And I bought it, and I was very happy. I've still got it. I'm like, I want another baby so I can use that thing.
One thing I notice about Facebook, whenever I buy anything off of Facebook, it takes like a million years to get it. And I don't know why that is.
Drops it. That's not a Facebook thing. That's a whatever company you're buying.
Of course, I understand that, but I mean, it just seems more prevalent. And maybe I'm all just conditioned that if I buy something on Amazon by noon, I can get it later that day.
I think there's a little bit of that, Tim, but I also think that there's a lot of stuff out there that's on Facebook, especially that's drop shipping stuff as well. So the problem with drop shipping is it's always going to have, because you've got an intermediary, right? Like if I built a drop shipping site, all I really am is running a site, and then I've got to send the order to whoever's the manufacturer, then the manufacturer puts packages all and sends it. And unfortunately, a lot of stuff is coming from China as well. So you add the shipping and all of the stuff that goes with that. I actually bought a shaver in, I think it was August. I got it in January. And I actually got to the point that I thought I just lost my money. But I looked into it, and it was shipped from a Chinese drop shipper. So, one thing that I would say, and when we don't work with drop shippers as an agency, we won't work with them just because they can be, they can be difficult. We only work with manufacturers and people who actually, the product is their product.
Yep.
And those you typically will get like a 4 or 5 day turnaround. It's not Amazon next day or same day. Like the other day, I ordered a cable, and I ordered it at 9 a.m. in the morning, and I had it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
I know, man. I love that.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that, that's the one thing that when Amazon works, it works really good. You can one-click something and have it same day, or at the very least next day as a Prime member. So, all right. So before we run, so what I'm gathering from you then is I should expect, though, to spend at least $5,000 figuring things out with,
Yeah.
for instance, if I hired your agency, I had a product, I'm going to be in there for it, in just in my ad spend. That doesn't even cover paying you guys, but my ad spend is going to be $500 wash down the toilet just to figure things out before it really starts turning me on some money. And I'm a big believer that once you get that algorithm going, right, maybe it's 20% of sales, as long as I have that built into my cost, it doesn't matter how much you spend then, right? You could spend $1 million a month as long as I'm making $4 to $5 million in sales.
Right. And here's the thing to think about Facebook too. Don't think of it as just a profit machine. There's other things that can be more profitable. Think of it as a branding and introduction machine, right? So like if you're wanting to get into a big box store, if you're wanting to work, if they're wanting to work with you, Tim, to help them get into those stores, if you're doing a really great campaign on Facebook and you get hundreds, if not millions of people seeing what you're doing and really liking your product, how much more ammunition does that give you to go into like Bed Bath and Beyond if you've already got a massive sales, massive following, massive everything out, people have heard of you, and you're not like this unknown product that no one's heard of. But hey, like Bed Bath and Beyond can go to your Facebook page and see that there's 500,000 people that are following you. You can show your orders, and you're selling $800,000 worth of products a month. That's a lot more compelling than, hey, I've got this really cool product. Can I put it on your shelf? That shelf space is premium. I mean,
well, we call that, I mean, we call that here at TLB, we call that your sales story. Right. And the sales story is not necessarily the story of how your product came to be. I came up with that term because it's a story of the trended sales and marketing of your product. If you're going to talk to a target buyer, they need to know first, why do you feel like you should even be in front of me right now? I'm a buyer for Target. I'm not the buyer for ABC, Bob's, gifts. I'm the buyer for Target. So you have to show them this progression of improvement. And my to your point, my motto is always, hey, if you have good following, good engagement, yes, mention it and talk it up. If you don't mention it at all. But I do remember, and this was some years ago, and I remembered it as a turning point in my business, sitting in the offices at Target, having a meeting with a buyer. The first time any retail buyer, and it was a Target buyer for me, asked me what we were doing on social media. And up until that moment, and this was maybe 10 or 8 years ago, up until that moment, no buyer had ever asked me that. And I remember I was like, man, that is right there is a shift, and it's only going to be more, it's only going to be a bigger deal. Let's move real quick to your own website, because like I was telling you before we hit record, I think a lot of my clients forget that they even have their own website. The sales are dismal there. They're kind of using it just as a landing page, branding opportunity. Yes, I'm legit, but you can find me on but I'm always talking to them about selling on your own website is the most profitable place that you can sell. So, why not do what you can? Is it impossible to sell products on your own website today with Amazon out there and Facebook and all these things that we talked about? Does it make it almost obsolete?
No, I think, especially if you're a manufacturer, especially if you're the creator of your goods, that you should absolutely be doing that. And if you're the manufacturer and the creator of your goods, you have a leg up on a lot of people that are selling on Amazon. Remember, most of the Amazon people that are selling on Amazon, they're selling someone else's product. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many people on Amazon that have set up Amazon stores and they're selling other people's products. They're not selling their own. If you've got your own product, sure, be on Amazon, be in the big box stores, have those different parts. So I kind of look at it as, if you've got a stool, you don't have one leg on it, right? Have 3 legs on it, and one of those legs should be your own store. And if it's your own product that you're manufacturing, you've got a massive competitive advantage against most of the other noise, that we call it, out there in the marketplace. And you should have control over your product. And that means if like you said, if Walmart decides to change the terms or do something different, if you've got your store rolling, you've still got something to fall back on. And it should be a significant part of what's going on. If you want to run if you want to be more than just a supplier of a product and actually be a business that makes money, I'm guessing most people get into manufacturing, they get into business to actually make money, to make their lives better, and
I
be
would
able to
think,
send their
yeah.
kids to college and all of that good stuff. If that's important to you, have control over your own destiny. Have your own storefront online, which with the pandemic, especially because the pandemic has really pushed this forward. We've seen this like in the numbers in a big way. People are buying online more than they ever have, and we do not think that will ever change. I think that push with the pandemic is made people that weren't purchasing stuff online purchase stuff online because they didn't have much of a choice. But now they've realized that, oh, this isn't actually a bad way to purchase stuff, and they're going to continue. And so there's orders of magnitude more people purchasing. I think, the retail used to be, okay, everybody's doing business in retail and there was this amount, and e-commerce was always kind of like dragging behind. I think e-commerce is right up there now, from where people are spending their money, and retail, it's maybe more neck and neck now. So if you're not online, you're basically losing an opportunity and money. And like you said, if you do it right, with the right, and I do believe you should think of getting an agency. Don't try to do it yourself. I don't have any employees that can do Google, Facebook, email marketing, and website optimization all in one person. There's so much specialties going on. There's so much changes that one person can't be amazing at all four of those practices. And then there's other platforms coming up, like TikTok is starting to show it as a place that maybe people need to be. It might seem like a stupid thing. I don't even have a TikTok account. I'm like, 12 seconds of dancing like a silly idiot is what I see TikTok as. But I know for a fact that serious businesses are making millions of dollars of sales on TikTok right now.
Yeah, they are.
So, there's all these things happening constantly. And my advice to anybody that's out there that wants to get serious about making sure that they have diversity in their sales structure is to be online and to hire probably an agency. I hate to plug myself a little bit, but hire an agency that all they do is stay up to date on that stuff. Like as a manufacturer, you're busy with all the different moving parts, because I mean, there's so many moving parts to manufacturing that it's crazy. I don't even want to get into it because I probably don't even know it all. But from you don't want to suddenly dump into the online marketing world where everything is changing month by month. Month by month, Facebook is different. Google is different month by month. TikTok is changing month by month. Instagram changes month by month. Shopify, WordPress, all the different website platforms are changing monthly, either a little incrementally, which can actually cascade into something quite large, or large, which shuts down the whole thing. And you want to make sure you've got a team that actually knows what's going on and are preparing so you don't get hit by it. And I want to just say this too. When you're out there looking for somebody to work on your products and to market your products, maybe as an agency, look for an agency that will tell you, I don't think this product will work. We won't work with a company that we don't feel the product will work. The way we're set up, most good agencies that are set up, they will have some kind of bonus structure on sales, right? And sure, there might be a retainer, but the good agencies, the retainer is just the beginning. When you're making $3 million worth of sales a year, I want to have a little share of that.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And that motivates my team because they get a bonus. I'm motivated to make sure you're getting things done. I think from an American spirit standpoint, I think most Americans like the thought of, okay, I like the fact that you got skin in the game kind of thing. Most good agencies are going to be that way. And there's going to be an element like QVC, maybe not as bad as QVC, where we're going to vet the clients that we represent, because we only really want to work with those that are going to do well, because I don't want to be charging you our retainer. I want to be charging you our retainer plus bonuses, right? So, from a website standpoint, if you're making, give you an example, if you're manufacturing steel chicken feeders, right? Be online, because our steel chicken feeding client that we work with went from a little company in New Zealand. It was a New Zealand-based company selling about $40,000 worth of chicken feeders a month to, I think we're up to about maybe $1.2 million of chicken feeders worldwide. And they're a little New Zealand-based company. And
Right.
3 years down the line, they're 1.2 million. They've been able to expand into Australia. They're now selling thousands of chicken feeders a month in the United States. They're now selling in the UK. But the two little 60-year-old guys who figured out how to build a really cool chicken feeder out of aluminum, and suddenly they're selling all over the world. And that's the kind of stuff that can happen. And if you're a little bit more sophisticated than two, retirees who figured out a really cool chicken feeder, you can do the same thing if you've got a product that people care about. And the beauty of Facebook and Google, especially Google, is that especially Facebook, is that you can, that the trick of Facebook is just getting the right product in front of the person that's most likely to buy it. And you do that with a compelling message that captures their attention, that means something to them, they'll buy it from you. And it's simple as that. If you're not getting sales on Facebook and you have a really good product, it's probably because you're not doing something right.
You got it in front of the wrong people, or you're not telling the right people the right thing.
Right. Because to get you to get excited, I've got to talk to you the way that you get excited, right? I don't talk to you the way that I get excited.
Well, I mean, people on Facebook know, I mean, Facebook's algorithm knows that I like cool wallets. So they're always sending me the coolest, newest wallet. And I'm pretty much a sucker for that. So they also know that I'm always looking for the coolest crossbody bag to carry my crap in. So I get tons of advertising, but I like it because I want to know if I'm constantly waiting to see the bag that's like going to be my go-to bag.
Right.
And so I like getting all those ads because I feel like one day the right bag will come across and I'll be like, that's it.
My dad loves watches, so he gets all sorts of watches coming on there. And he's 77, but he's actively on Facebook because his kids are spread around the world. And he's like, this is a way to keep in touch with everybody. But what is his ads? He just has tons of watch ads. Yeah. Because every time he sees a watch on Facebook, he clicks on it and has a look because he loves watches. Right, so he gets more of it and more of it, and he actually doesn't mind it because he likes them. And he has a few too many watches now because he buys them, and it works really well. And I have a lot of I tend to get a lot of gadgets and travel stuff because I like gadgets and I like traveling, and I get a lot of travel stuff and gadgets, and I enjoy it, and I purchase it. I purchase so much silly stuff on Facebook because I'm that guy who, if I stayed up till 2 a.m, would be watching all those infomercials with the cool little gadgets, and I'd be calling up my credit card asking for the stupid thing that I use 3 times. Yeah. But I love gadgets and I love to see how they work and what they do. And Facebook has figured out that that's what Andy likes. Facebook's figured out that you like wallets. Facebook's figured out that my dad likes watches, and we're getting targeted with those things that we like, which is much more likely that you're going to buy a wallet, my dad's going to buy a watch, and I'm going to buy a gadget, right? And if you can step into that realm and do it correctly, it's amazing what can happen. It really is. It's kind of like, I always say this, and it's not I guess what it is an underused term, is Facebook done right can be life-changing. Yeah. I've seen it time and time again.
Well, I'm glad that we had a chance to, I hate to wrap things up, but sure. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about that. I think it makes a lot of sense. Big Boxers, obviously you guys are paying attention. I'm going to have all of Andy's stuff in the show notes, how you can get a hold of him and possibly connect with his company. Andy, maybe sometime we'll have you in the VIP group. I have a big VIP sure. group of people that really could use, that are all in this pre-launch stage of getting their products out there. So that would be fun. Any last thoughts?
So I think the last thought that I would have, which is I think a big thought in your head, Timothy, is if you're a manufacturer, have control of your destiny, get your website up to speed where you can do transactions on it. And start building, even if you're just doing it incrementally and slowly, your ability to actually manufacture the product and sell it to the end user. I think there's nothing dangerous about that at all, right? Yeah. There's no downside to that in any way. And start building that third leg on your stall instead of balancing on 1 or 2 of them. I think is a very good way to go about it. And I think to some degree that will recession proof your company, because, you know, ultimately when there is a recession, even if it's a great recession or a great depression, it usually affects about 20% of the population. That means 80% has still got money. 80%, you know, even if it goes down to 70%. Back in the day when it was just retail outlets, that would really affect you, right? That would affect you badly. Now that you can actually cut right through and get right to those 70% and kind of like go away from the 30%, because the algorithms can see who's purchasing at this moment and who's doing the stuff, you can actually recession proof yourself if you actually do things correctly online, which is kind of amazing.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, if you want to, that's the quote of the day. If you want to recession proof your business, you're going to have to get with Andy to get that done.
There you go.
All right. Listen, Andy, wonderful speaking with you. I'm sure we'll connect again. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with the big boxers. Very much appreciative. Listen, take care and have a great day.
Thank you.